So hi everyone. Once again, we are joined today by CibCom, who will be giving an introduction to their organization and their work. They are a Spanish-speaking organization based out of Spain, mostly, and yeah, it's gonna be good. So like I said before, sorry to interrupt. Take it away for real this time.
Okay, good. Yeah, first of all, I would like to start thanking INDEP for this opportunity to present the group and the work we do. I would also like to thank everyone who joined today for gifting us a little bit of your time to to explain a little bit more of what CibCom does. But before we get into that, I will go through a little bit of history. So we all know that from mid-70s to this day, neoliberalism became like the de facto economic standard all around. Basically, this meant that for decades in Western countries, worker rights have been on the low and decreasing year after year. Communist bloc basically almost all countries disintegrated and disappeared, and those that are still standing more or less assimilated in the capitalist economy to a lesser or greater extent. And then in 2008, we basically had this crisis. This crisis that is at least the only good news for communists is that people started to wonder how can it be that the means of production remain idle, people are unemployed, and yet there are plenty of social needs that are unmet all the time. So yeah, as I was saying, the good thing for communists is that people, when they have free time because they are not working, start wondering how can it be that all this works like this, and they start looking at private ownership of the means of production. So then we had this opportunity to bring the debates that we will discuss later back into place. Then the other opportunity came from the destruction of nature that we are experiencing even more clearly in the last years with all climate change, and we all know this, and we will delve into this more in detail later. So here we had the two main opportunities to start talking about changing economic affairs. But the problem is that there was this famous woman who said there was no alternative. Hopefully, I will convince some, and I guess many of you will already be convinced, but maybe I convince you more that there is indeed an alternative, and this is pointing towards cybercommunism. The origins of our group began back in 2017 with the publication of Cibercomunismo, which is just the Spanish word for cybercommunism. This was a set of essays by Paul Cockshott, Alan Cottrell, and Maxi Nieto. Maxi Nieto being the Spanish addition to the famous couple. And this was actually the first publication of Cockshott's and Cottrell's work in Spanish. In parallel, CibCom appear as a reading group for this book to discuss the ideas that were presented there. The CibCom collective itself is a think tank, and we mostly do research on economic planning and cybernetic communism. And on top of the research, we also try to do as much as outreach as possible, publishing content that is accessible for everyone. And the main objective here was to turn socialism into something that is credible, as a credible alternative for everyone, and then bring in the discussion on economic planning that we thought was the key aspect that was missing. We wanted to bring this back into the mainstream discussions. It's a fully self-funded organization. We are proud of this because the main benefit is that we get a lot of freedom to do the things we want. It has its, it has the bad things too, but we are very proud of this one. And it's mostly based in Spain and Latin America, even though we are in contact and we have people all around the world speaking well in contact with people in Germany, Russia, and so on. So we are a friendly collective, and we try to talk with as many people as we can. So once the group stopped reading, finished reading Cybercomunism and discussing it. So the question was what to do from there, and what we came up was with this 4 stages plan. So the main point was to start gathering 16 literature on economic planning. Even though people said that there was no alternative to markets. There is plenty of literature on economic planning in many languages. English, German, Russian were the main ones that we found, but there is plenty of work out there. So the idea was to start gathering all these texts and translating them into Spanish and disseminating them into the Spanish-speaking world, because this was not a hot topic back then. That was the second point. Then once we educated ourselves in the topic, the third point was the elaboration of our own articles and audiovisual content and other kind of tests to publish. And really the main goal was the last stage is to make our ideas popular in the revolutionary left. We fulfill all the stages, and this now became like a recurrent job that we continuously do all of the tasks, because there is continuously new content being generated that needs to be translated, and we are actually an active part of this generation of new content. But to be to be well known in the revolutionary left, and we mean all the revolutionary left, one of our core principles when it came to organizing a CibCom is anti-sectarianism. This was there from the beginning, because the idea is to bring people from all the traditions of the revolutionary left, as I said before. But as the years go by, we realize that this is something we have to emphasize, and then we want to advocate for and make it explicit. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do, and when we will talk about viable systems and cybernetics later. This is one of the key aspects of such a viable system, because we need to avoid fierce fights between people who are relatively close in most of the things they defend. So the idea is to have a common goal, which is defending democratic economic planning. This was the common goal for everybody who joined the organization. And once you defend this bare minimum, then everything else was allowed in the discussion. So of course this takes a little bit of work in how people debate, how you approach hot topics that that may be tricky for other people to be on your side. So it creates a whole new philosophy of collaborating with people in your organization. So we continuously work on this and advocate on this. Of course, it takes always a learning cycle for people coming from other organizational cultures. But from this cornerstone, we developed the whole organization that we will present from now on. So from this slide, I will give the stage to Pablo, so he continues presenting from here.
Hi, hello everyone. I will continue for a bit. As you can see, there is plenty of Pablos in Spain. So I will ask my comrade to just pass to the next slide. So about our organization, about our internal organization, I think it's very interesting to discuss it a bit, because the problems we had are very common in a lot of organizations, and I think we can learn a lot from it. It's a bit ironic that we defend cybernetic communism, and at some point our own organization was not very cybernetic. It was not very viable, because we had a lot of people doing a lot of tasks, but there was mostly one person coordinating everything and keeping up with everyone and making sure they were doing their job. And of course, this ends up in burnout and this kind of thing. So at some point in our General Assembly, our yearly assembly, we decided to completely rework our structure. And we took a lot of inspiration from the viable system model. Yeah, maybe pass to the next slide. So what we decided to do is, well, you know that in cybernetics, one basic thing is that people cannot do more tasks than they can do. It's it's almost obvious, but this has some consequences, and one of them is that people should have freedom and autonomy, which is kind of the same word, to organize their work as they see fit. So we organized several groups, more or less autonomous, dedicated to social media, to writing, outreach, web, and each of these groups has their coordinator, their meetings, whatever. But then, of course, to make these groups coordinated and cohesive into the whole organization, you need some kind of management. So each of the coordinators of the groups have their coordination meetings, which are cybernetic terms, maybe the system 3 and 2, which coordinate, optimize, and kind of do some control here and there, but always guaranteeing the autonomy of the groups. And then we have like the general assembly, which is just all the members. We meet once per month usually, or well, yeah, I will mention that currently we don't have this organization because we are not so many people. But 1 year ago we did this like a monthly meeting where we discuss the short-term planning, and we also have one yearly meeting in person, ideally, where we do more long-term planning and establish the policy of the organization. So, well, this is a bit of our organization. And now I will go to the core principles of CibCom. Okay, so the principles are, I would say, more or less the same as INDEPs, like the critique of capitalism, especially Marxist critique, because we are a Marxist group. And also, this is the critique, and then we have the alternative, which is democratic economic planning. But our group in particular focuses on one, let's say, branch of the democratic economic planning, which is cybernetic planning. But as I will argue later, for us, cybernetics is not just some flavor or some optional thing. It's actually a necessary thing. If you want to have a viable system model, it better be cybernetic, because if not, it's not going to perform or to accomplish its objectives. So yeah, next slide. So we also draw a lot of inspiration from previous experiences. Of course, history is a very good teacher. So we learn about, for example, Elinor Ostrom's work of communities that have been able to manage their resources in a kind of decentralized and autonomous way. There are examples in Spain, for example, in Valencia, I think, with the water. Also in Soria, I think they had like communal forests and all these things. There are some examples of how to manage a society communally that we can learn a lot from. We also take a lot of experience from the Soviet bloc and the Chinese and all these socialist experiences that actually they did a lot of experiments with planning and different kinds of democratic tools also that we analyze and criticize and learn from them. And also, of course, CyberSync, which was probably the main or the first attempt to use cybernetics in an economy. Maybe not so much to plan it, but to control it, or to control an economy in a democratic way. So next slide. Now, regarding cybernetics, we gathered here some of the influences. These are kind of some of the influences that we have in CibCom. They are not all of them because there is a whole branch of democracy that influences us, coming from the Athenian democracy and the radical republican tradition that we did not have space to include here. But here we have the more critique of political economy and cybernetic influences, of course, Marx and Engels. But you also have Otto Neurath and the group of international communists that defended both Neurath, the calculation in kind, that influenced Cockshott a lot, and also the labor vouchers defended by the GIC, which no, I'm not sure if they influenced Cockshott because I'm not sure if he knows about them, but it's basically the same idea of using labor time accounting. We also have a lot of influences from the probabilistic political economy people, and also from the econophysics side as a tool to criticize scientifically capitalism with the statistics and physics and all these tools. And also we have a lot of influences from the cyberneticians. Well, the original cyberneticians like Wiener or Shannon, whose work was popularized in the Soviet Union with some changes by Kitov, Lyapunov, Sobolev. We have some translation of their work in CibCom called the Principles of Cybernetics, I think. I will send Leon the link later to that. And this kind of Marxist cybernetics school was combined with the planning school in the Soviet Union, like Kantorovich or Leontiev, and this gave rise to a whole school of cybernetic planning, including Gluskov, Nikolai Veduta, Oskar Lange, not in the Soviet Union, but also kind of this school more or less, which influenced also Cockshott and Cottrell, which are our main influence. And of course, we have Stafford Beer, which kind of influences Cockshott, but not so much, but well. So yeah, next slide. So well, as I said, one of CibCom's principles is the critique of capitalism, but I don't think it's necessary to get into detail with this because you already know a lot about this, probably more than me, but I just want to stress that we really endorse the use of or the study of econophysics to critique capitalism. Next slide. Yeah, and what is the alternative? Well, the alternative is communism, which is a project of emancipation based on collective control of the productive process. This has to be democratic. And I always say this, for me, the end goal of all of this is to give people a good life. That's the main reason why we want this collective control and this organization. And next slide. So one of the conclusions that we get from all this analysis of capitalism is that we need to have some alternative for money. And Marx already saw this. And he mentioned that, well, it was based, I think, on Owen's labor bonds. But the thing is you should substitute money for some accounting unit. And this can be labor hours. Labor hours are very transparent because if you pay someone, let's say 8 hours of work, for 8 hours of work, there is clearly no surplus value being extracted. No one is getting some hours of work from someone else. So there is no exploitation. And it's very transparent for people that if they buy some good that was that took, let's say, 1 hour of work, but yeah, they know how the cost is calculated. They know how they can acquire it. And a good thing is that you equalize production and consumption. So if people work 1 million hours, they consume 1 million hours, more or less. If they consume less, then you should produce less. So we always try to balance the needs of the society. And these are not equivalent to money because well, money is circulates and labor bonds doesn't, but I will go to the next slide. So as I said, why cybernetics important in our proposal? Well, it's important because any viable system, any system that accomplishes its goal in time has to follow some rules. So they require both decentralized elements and centralized elements. So the decentralized elements have the autonomy to do their tasks, and then some kind of management intervenes when it's necessary to optimize, to coordinate, plan. But it's not, let's say, it's not some optional thing. It's something that you really need if you want to make a system that works in time. So next slide. And one of these key aspects of a cybernetic organization is planning. It's not this debate whether like the debate between markets and plans, whether you need one or the other is not even very interesting because market economies already have plans. It's just necessary. Governments plan, companies plan. The thing is, what kind of planning we need in socialism? Well, it's democratic planning because it's the only way that you can really accomplish society's goals if you have everyone involved deciding what those goals are. And next slide. So yeah, cybernetics also tells us that since planning is necessary, it's necessary at all levels of recursion, from the production units or companies or whatever you want to call them, and well, the entire society even. So you can have different plans, for example, a strategic plan in the whole society or country or whatever. And then you can have other kinds of plans like macroeconomic plans or detailed plans, which work at a lower level, at an enterprise level, for example. But in a cybernetic organization, you always need to have some feedback loops between these plans. So this is something that still should be answered and researched, but it's really a necessary thing. And I will finish this slide by mentioning that, of course, algorithms are necessary, like linear programming or input-output tables or more computer computational stuff, but it's not the whole story. But still, we can learn a lot from how these tools are used. We have a book called Mathematics to Plan an Economy, which mentions some of these tools and how they work. And for example, now we are also reading a book called Factory Physics, which explains how production is planned and controlled in companies, which also has a lot of insights about how we could plan an economy in the future. But as I said, it's not the whole story. And now I will let Pablo continue.
Okay, so I will continue because this is a big part that is sometimes forgotten. Of course, we need all these tools to plan the economy, and one important aspect that needs to be highlighted is that for this cybernetic planning to be truly socialist. I will directly read because this is an important quotation, is that the entire working class is the designer, director, and executor of the plan. Planning already occurs at the capitalist firm, but we need to really highlight the importance of democracy in this whole picture. And we start here by making a strong critique of parliamentarism or liberal democracy, because really there is like a double delegation of the popular power. So we all call, or many call our societies democratic, but democracy only happens like every 5 or 5 years. People one day suddenly wake up feeling very democratic, and then decide to select the representatives. But the day after that this happened, democracy seems to go away. There is no way to, or there is no clear way to revoke these representatives. It doesn't matter if you are not feeling very happy with how your representative is behaving or performing. You just have to wait for another 4 years. Then the second delegation is that, as I said, this democratic feeling only happens for one time every 4 or 5 years. When it comes to economic decisions, you can directly forget about them at your company. This mostly, we know how vertical these companies are. But even when the government or the elected government wants to enforce some new regulations, we see that economy is usually left out or not even managed at the country level, sometimes in some international kind of organization, or completely left out for companies to control. And so here we really claim that democracy has to expand to all aspects of society, and then needs to be extended for everybody to be in. Otherwise, it's not truly democratic. And this is extremely important for this cybernetic planning and control, as I will show in the next slide. But before that, I want to say that we really take influences from the classical Greek democracy in terms of how, for certain people at least, they achieve equality in a way that everyone had the right to speak and propose things. And also from modern republicanism, here englobe things like, the French tradition, by the way, a tradition that Marx obtained a lot from. So the influence here has more to do with how the institutional framework is developed, how we ensure basic freedoms and rights. And the idea is to replace these representative governments with a more popular delegacy. We believe this is an essential aspect for cybernetic planning. Sometimes it's forgotten, so that's why we highlight it so much. Sometimes we focus a lot on how to do the economic planning part, and then we forget how this whole plan is done. So spoiler alert, this is done democratically. And really what we need here is some kind of framework that allows the collective to make decisions in a way that every member is treated equally, and also guaranteeing individual freedoms. And this is very important in cybernetic terms, because by enforcing this, or by ensuring that the whole system is democratic, new information is generated to take into account people's needs and how they feel about certain things, in a way that this substitutes the feedback loop created by the market. So, as I said, this is an important component on cybernetic planning. And then for the decision making to be fully cybernetic as well, we should take into account that local decisions should be maintained local. And then shouldn't be raised to a global decision process. So we keep these two processes separated for efficiency. How we do this is using different tools that we have at our disposal. I think most of us are very familiar with the first two, elected councils. They would be making decisions. They could be at different levels, like regional level or more global level. But also, instead of just doing this based on the territory, we could elect councils for different industry branches. Then referenda. They are important for instance, to approve the strategic plans, or to ask the population about very specific and measurable matters. But then one important aspect that sometimes is not very well understood why this is democratic is sortition. So instead of choosing people or representatives, people would just be randomly chosen from the whole population. This is what you achieve with this is you obtain a statistically unbiased selection of the population. So there is this interesting study analyzing how the German parliament works, where people, for some reason, tend to choose a lot of lawyers and people who study economics. And they don't, for some reason, representatives don't tend to be from other kind of jobs. And this study contrasts the current German parliament with the parliament in the DDR, where you had people from all ways of lives and come from all kind of jobs. So we need to wonder why our representatives are very much unlike the populations they tend to represent, and sortition plays a big role here. And then to put economy back into people's hands, we could, for instance, have democratic investment funds where people decide where to put the money on to fund projects that need a lot of investment, or typical associations to defend consumers and citizens would be important too. Now, changing a little bit of topic, an important aspect that we work on CibCom is the ecological aspect. This comes from the analysis of the metabolic fracture between human interactions the metabolic fracture of humans with nature. This is basically rationalized in monetary terms in capitalism. So, I mean, if polluting a river, you need to decide if polluting a river is worth it or not. You do a cost-benefit analysis, and if the number seems to be green, you go ahead. This is a very dangerous way to rationalize the whole process. But even the problem goes beyond this, because this process is governed by market laws that are very much irrational, as proven by Marx and others in the critique of political economy. So just having these laws to govern how our interaction with nature can be a little bit chaotic. So that the idea here, why this is a core research area for us, is that planning can be very helpful to rationalize the interaction of humans with the social metabolism and try to close the gap created with this metabolic fracture. Of course, socialism is not going to magically solve all our problems, but I think it gives us a very solid floor to work on, and with very useful tools to do so. So the idea here is that ecological decisions would be democratic. If you need to collect some water in a dam, for instance, you would ask people in the place where this dam is going to be built to decide if this is something that is worthy pursuing or not. So the public debate based on scientific evidence would play a major role here. There are also other tools that are useful, not just democracy here. So, for instance, you could put ecological constraints in your macroeconomic plan to ensure that production doesn't go beyond certain thresholds. This goes more into the macroeconomic area. When we want to analyze the microeconomic area, there is a tool which is called life cycle sustainability assessment, that basically allows you to track and evaluate social, environmental, and economic impacts of almost every process in the economy. So you could do very detailed analysis with this tool here. But then of course there is always this question: if you want to limit CO2 production, you can add a constraint in your set of mathematical formulas and then try to, not to go beyond this. But there are more complex processes like agroecological cycles that are a little bit more difficult, or I would say quite more difficult to model mathematically. So we need to keep researching on this area, because this is very important to see how to integrate this in the plan. Then another important research area for us is how to socialize care work. This is some kind of work that specific working capital, specific, no, special kind of working capitalism, because it's unpaid work that usually is the feminized area of the the feminized percentage of the population that tend to do this work, and most of the time unpaid. Of course, if we start planning our economies and our cities, we will have chances to reorganize this in a way that is fairer for everybody, and is socialized among the whole population. So, for instance, having communal kitchens or kindergartens, nursing homes, in a way that everybody has access to this care work in a socialized way. Of course, this is not going to fix every problem, but the idea here is that if we bring planning into the public debate, it is a good chance to start bringing this debate back. This is an area that we are doing active research and publishing on too. And the last research area I want to bring up is we name it here as that we want to reclaim the utopia. What you see here in this picture, maybe some of you are familiar with this kind of artistic style that we use a lot in CibCom. The main reason behind this is that this kind of art is called solar punk. It contrasts very much with other styles like cyberpunk or dieselpunk. That is, the world is very dirty and gives you a kind of negative outlook of the capitalist society. On the other side, solar punk gives you a more optimistic view of the future, in a world that already hints at this metabolic fracture being closed that I was mentioning before. So humans have basically rationally managed the social metabolism, usually in a very positive way, as you can see in this image. It gives you very good vibes, but we should not forget the other part is not just solar, but it's solar punk. And this second part of the movement is more about the whole revolutionary anti-capitalist movement. It's not just because you put a couple of hanging plants like Singapore does that you become solar punk all of a sudden. It's this whole revolutionary idea that we have to reclaim from the left to build an utopia that is worth pursuing and motivates people to pursue it. We are finalizing the presentation. I will give the floor to Pablo again to start wrapping up of the things we do, and trying to wrapping up the presentation. So Pablo, go ahead.
Yeah, so in this last part of the presentation, we're going to talk about a bit about our work and our collaborations that I know is very interesting for INDEP. And also we will do some reflections and some, Pablo will do it. So as Pablo mentioned at the beginning, we had some initial plan, which was at the beginning to publish or to translate out of works about planning. And I was counting yesterday, and we had like 70 translations, which I was very surprised. I didn't know there were so many. And they are translations about planning, democracy, cybernetics, history, ecology. And some of them were not even published that we know in English. There was one I will share here, which was about the limits of growth in communism, which I don't know what it was in German or in Russian, I don't remember. But it's a lot of people echoed this publication in social media, and actually it gave us a lot of visibility. So we mostly translate into Spanish, but we also have translate to other languages. Then we have our own works. The main one is the Mathematics to Plan an Economy, book, which was written to build the gap between the most basic, even mathless articles about planning and the most advanced literature that is sometimes not very accessible if you're not a math nerd like us. So we tried to do a bridge between them, which was this book where we introduce input-output tables and linear programming, a bit of computational complexity. So it was a hit, let's say. Got translated into English, Portuguese, French, Russian, and I think they are translating it into Turkish also, and maybe some other languages. So it got us very famous, at least in Spain or these environments. And also this book, because it got us a bit better known, we got, yeah, we should translate it into Chinese also. A Catalan magazine in Spain called Catarsi contacted us to write some short articles popularizing our ideas. So we wrote 6 short articles about, well, the principles that we just mentioned: cybernetics, democracy, planning, ecology, care work, and labor bonds. And we translated them into English. We published some of them in Jacobin, Cosmonaut. So we kind of reduced a lot this work, which is a good thing to do always. And we also did, well, YouTube videos, interviews, talks, but most of them were because of the previous work we had done. Like, people read our translations and especially our short articles and our math book. And we got to be, like, at least in the Spanish-speaking world, like the reference place for cybernetic socialist planning. So we got invited into lots of places, but it was, as I want to highlight, mostly because of these popularized short articles, because sometimes there is a huge gap between academia and the general public, and we always try to bridge this gap. So next slide. Well, these are some of the collaborations we did with the Communist Party in Spain, with a Marxist project that Leon and other people from INDEP were also part of it before INDEP was born. We also helped to reprint the fundamental principles of communist production and distribution in Spanish with Dos Cuadrados, which is a leftist self-published publisher in Spain. We also attended conferences in the US, which also got us a bit better known in this English-speaking world. And next slide. So yeah, I want to emphasize again the important aspect of anti-sectarianism in our collaborations. We collaborate with groups from all the leftist spectrum if they are interested in our ideas. Like, we don't care if they are anarchist, communist, Marxist-Leninist, Trotskyist, Social Democrat, whatever. If they're interested in our ideas, we're open to talk about them. And I think it's a very good attitude that oftentimes is lost. People are just very focused in their own maximalist programs, let's say. We want to bring this more minimum basic program to the left that is already very divided. And one interesting thing that happened to us with these short articles that we published is that a town hall in Spain, that they have a lot of public infrastructure like cooperatives and communal lands. So one of the short articles where we mentioned how planning could be done in a very broad way. And they contacted us to see if they could do some kind of planning in their own town. We had some meetings with them, but well, in the end, it was kind of difficult because of all these problems with market socialism, that cooperatives, they don't really want to share information with others or be subject to plans. So well, it was an interesting discussion, but in the end, it was not possible. So this is a nice thing to share with INDEP, because I think can bring us a bit more to the ground on the difficulty sometimes of making these ideas true. We also had the idea to maybe promote more the democratic aspect of our proposal in this town, but in the end we didn't proceed. But maybe in the future we could discuss it. And next slide. Well, this is just some of the collaborations we had. So I will give the floor to Pablo to just wrap it up with the final thoughts.
Okay, just a little bit as a small introduction of the questions that probably will come from you later on. We wanted to reflect on all these years from 2017 and some of the most important outcomes of our work. The first one is the limits of our proposal. So this is what Pablo was just mentioning with this city hall in Spain. Sometimes it's difficult to bridge the gap between what we theoretically write and actually managing to get some hands-on experience of how this works. Many times because of market socialism, even those people are interested on what we do. Sometimes it's difficult to get everybody on board because they have their own interests at play. That's one point. The other point is also that every time we got in contact with workers' unions, political parties, the first reaction is always that we do something very interesting. So probably something that is missing there, and also something that Pablo mentioned before, is that we need to bridge the gap between between intellectuals and workers. We have to do. We try to do our part here. Some tests like this introductions to the methods of planning. It was precisely what we tried to do, but it seems every effort we put on this is too little, because all the time they think it's interesting, but they have not been exposed to this kind of work. So we need to keep putting a lot of effort here. Then there is the big elephant in the room, is how to turn an organization that only relies on basically the free time of people into a viable system. At the end of the day, because of the kind of organization we rely a lot on students and people who tend to change their life situation relatively quickly, and also they start having less time when they stop being students and so on, and when they have to write PhD thesis and stuff like this. But building a viable system here doesn't seem like it's never a straightforward task, but it becomes even trickier when you cannot count on people to be predictable over time. So we need to solve this problem, and this is that's also why we are sharing the last bullet points, that people changing capabilities and the time they can put on. One big aspect is that once you grow as an organization, new members are extremely shy to start collaborating, because they think they don't have the knowledge. So you have to put a lot of work to make them see that this is actually not true, and that we all welcome members. As we said before, we are extremely anti-sectarian, and this is also in a way that we always want new people to start working with us and to feel comfortable putting the work and the effort on. But this needs a lot of effort from people who are already in the organization. How to keep people motivated without having to, so it's key, so you don't make people coordinating the effort burn out, and you don't make the people putting the effort burn out too. So this is also an important aspect that needs to be accounted for when building this viable system. We had this reflection time after we lost members in the organization. So we're trying to organize in a more in a way that is easier to handle for fewer people, but is also able to escalate. So the last bullet point is we are trying to balance between producing new content, translating, not only translating text, but letting members write their own content. And I think it's something that is very motivating for everybody who is at CibCom. And once we produced new content, then focus a lot on bringing these two organizations, giving talks, producing videos, and social media content. So this is just some of the reflections we have. Probably we have more, and probably as you ask us questions, we will come up with new things. But it's just some way to bring ideas for the discussion later. Just a peek on the things we are working on. We think there is cybernetic ideas, and we believe they are not fully integrated with economic planning. So at least there is a lot of work being done, but we to get a cohesive standpoint needs quite some work. So we are introducing this in our research. We are also introducing tools like supply chain management and artificial intelligence. We will be writing on this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I mean, it's clear how this aligns with our work. And then something that we believe is extremely important, but needs a lot of work, is some work on direct democracy and trying to put together all the tools we've mentioned today, and how these align with cybernetic socialist planning. Another point that we have tried to do sometimes, but I don't think we are quite yet there, is trying to come up with a minimum maximum program. So we need a program that unites the different families of the revolutionary left. That is feasible given current contingencies, but it's ambitious in the long term. You can see that the 3 bullet points are not easy on their own. So trying to build up a minimum maximum program with people from different traditions on the left is a huge project, but it's something that we have been thinking on for a while, and then we always come back and try to see if we are ready yet to build it. And I won't say a lot on this, but we are working on new publications. They are in an early stage, but so that's why I try to not to share too much. But we are trying to be ambitious to motivate ourselves to come back after a little bit of less or lower outcome from our side. So I will leave it there. You can get a lot of more information on our webpage. You can email us and also join our social media. And with this, I will conclude the presentation by thanking you all for your time. And yeah, we are both very happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation. I have pushed a few links related to your website and work in the chat. Those present can go take a look if they'd like to. I will go ahead and stop the recording, and then we will move on to the Q&A.